Welcome to Cool Explorations.
The divide that we see in Canada today has been growing for decades. We see the West being taken advantage of, used and abused, and treated like second class citizens in a country where the West has supported financially for far too often, only to have no voice in Parliament. This has been building up distrust, frustration, hatred between the two halves of the country that should be united. Part of the distrust, frustration, and hatred between the two halves of the country is that we all have very different thoughts, lifestyles, and understanding in many parts of this country. We have Vancouver and Victoria area, then the territories, then the rest of the West, Winnipeg through eastern Manitoba, urban Ontario, rural Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. These areas seem to be ignorant to the ideas and ideologies of the other areas. Ontario, Quebec, and part of the Maritimes seem to be closer in thought and band together to control the rest of Canada, which is a major cause of anger to the rest of the country. They minimize and remove the voice of the most of the West, yet they seem quite willing to accept money in the form of equalization payments from the West. Ignorance, something all parts of Canada are guilty of. In way too many areas, there is no attempt made to understand or to see the views of the other parts of Canada. It needs to stop. We are a country that is looking to fracture. The country needs to ensure all areas have a voice, all areas are represented equally, all areas are given the chance to implement their ideologies into our nation, and all areas are shown respect. Right now, what Canada has is a mesh of too many groups that want nothing to do with the other, which is not just a present issue, it has been an issue since Confederation. Quebec immediately grabs special rights and privileges and uses these rights to twist the arm of the country into doing their bidding, something that urban Ontario is far too willing to allow and get behind. The Eastern mentality has all but destroyed everything the West has worked hard to develop and build. The Eastern mentality has shattered our economy with what seems like no hope for a future. In Canada, fueling a fire smoldering and growing in intensity, spreading vehement flames throughout our nation, threatening the very existence of Canada. If ignorance is not stopped, Canada may very well become a part of history, a story told about to future generations, a folklore. Below is a couple of examples of the ignorance mentioned and responses issued by myself. Please stop posting this Eastern propaganda. It might sway the dumbasses. The clown has disabled commenting on the vid. Says it all. The blowback to all this bullshit was fierce. This is between Western citizens and the criminal federal authority. We are not fighting for Eastern Canada, a faraway land we have never seen. If they want to remain enslaved to a retarded Fed, that is their business. This is our home, and Eastern Canadians need to stay the F out of the conversation. This is a very ignorant statement. And my response is, clown, commenting is still on in the vid, I just checked. Check your facts before commenting, please. Besides, it isn't Eastern propaganda, it's balanced reporting, showing all sides of a discussion. If you want one-sided biased reporting, look at CTV, City TV, and CBC. That is biased Eastern propaganda. What in there offends you? The fact that I mentioned that it will be a slow process to complete separation or make change? It takes time, sorry, but it does not happen overnight. The fact that I mentioned that every single person in the West is sold on separating? Sorry, but it's a fact. We both may not agree with these people on the subject, but they are entitled to their opinions, as we are to ours. I agree that I want to be away from the Eastern control and have our voices heard again, but that does not mean everyone is forced to agree with us. Forcing people to have their opinion is a dictatorship. Please stop and just think about that, please. Not wanting to argue, just trying to educate and have more people make informed decisions. Thank you. And then there was a comment made on a Toronto Sun article where someone by the name of Robert Mullins commented that someone in the West was a liar and a sore loser. My response to this is, you would be a sore loser too if the decisions of Eastern city dwellers with no knowledge of how the world works in rural areas made decisions for the whole country. Try losing your job, home, car, and belongings and forced to go on welfare or take low paying jobs. Try watching friends commit suicide as they feel trapped, stuck, due to circumstances beyond their control. Try watching your neighbors move away with nothing, simply because the government that they rejected came into power and destroyed their livelihoods. Livelihoods that lies are spread about, villainized, for providing a source of energy that the vast majority of our products are made from. Energy that people who live in urban areas deem to be dirty and shame them for making it available, despite living in their cozy homes with cozy jobs and cozy cars, going about their lives like they haven't destroyed other people's lives with their uneducated decisions and brainwashed by media that is so biased that the truth is far from their goal. All the while, they use the items and belongings that were made by the same source of energy that they deem to be evil. People in large eastern urban centers that have no clue about the energy industry that they attack, brainwashed into believing solar and wind energy is the answer, despite these taking more energy to make than they actually provide in their lifetime, particularly wind turbines. These two energy sources use the same energy source to make them, the same energy produced in the oil sands and pulled from the ground in much of the West. If you want to call the reality behind these facts sore losers, then I guess we are all sore losers. You will be as well when this government you eastern urban dwellers voted in destroys the half of the country that provides the vast majority of equalization payments. Maybe, just maybe, try educating yourself on the facts before throwing stones that may break your own glass house. Try using empathy. Try looking at other people's lives outside your own little world. At least attempt to shed your ignorance before it makes you look even more foolish. This government's foolish policies have already cost us thousands of jobs in the short time since getting reelected. Don't let this government take your ability to think, to show compassion, and to ultimately keep your family safe. The hatred seems to run deep between these halves, East and West, but civility can be used. Comments about F. Trudeau and Quebec MLAs and MPs commenting complete disrespect for the West are just not necessary. Comments like these simply work to spread the divide and simply show how ignorant people can be. The question put forth then becomes, how do we find a resolution? A question I have seen put forth many times. I have seen great ideas come from fellow Westerners, also seen foolishness presented. The best way to combat this is with empathy and understanding. Try to see the other person's perspective. This goes for both the East and the West. Show respect, even when frustrated and angry. As Pat King states, everyone has a voice. If you can't talk responsibly and speak respectfully, then don't talk. All people are entitled to have their say. He goes on to state that we should beat with words, not fists, and cautions. Don't engage if you can't be respectful. Good advice. A loud voice does not normally get what you want. A soft tone garners more understanding and willingness to listen. Do I believe that Parliament will listen? No. But attacking those who oppose you accomplishes nothing. A slower paced approach that has a desire for change, for the betterment of the West, is what is needed. Educate yourselves on the issues, and not just from one source, but many sources. By educating yourself, you can then propose strong arguments, win debates, and show that the West is not just dumb hicks or stupid rednecks or white supremacists. Show that the West does know what we are talking about. Use facts to disprove, facts to convince, facts to open eyes. The East is fed a lot of misinformation or very little about the West. They focus on themselves. The West cannot be this way. Don't be ignorant. Yes, the West will need to fight for their rights, but it needs to be done in the proper manner. By educating yourselves, you can then educate those in the East. The East may turn a blind eye to these attempts, but at least you have been the bigger person. A lot is happening behind the scenes in the West to bring about this change. Let us do our best to implement these plans, support our efforts, find a way to help. Shouting angry rhetoric full of hate will only close ears and eyes. Return the rest of the West away from the movement to change. Anger, bitterness, and hate only hinder the efforts of these people who are working to bring about change. angry rhetoric did not bring about the efforts we are seeing success in trying to pull out of CPP and gaining our own sovereignty. Support is best provided through peace. Anger is understood, but use a healthy form of release, not hiding behind a keyboard attacking anyone who says anything that you don't agree with. Learn to control your mind. Use it for good. Assist us in bringing about change. Show Canada that ignorance is not tolerated, is not needed, and is not helpful. Bring about change to show knowledge that through words and actions. Help us help you. Educate yourselves. Stop ignorance in its tracks.
Remember to like and subscribe.